Okay, I'm on this webinar with hosts, with panelists. Hello, Angeline.
Hello.
So I had some go around with Brian yesterday, but he wasn't at the machine he was going to be joining from, and we just tested the link. Let's see what happens with him.
Okay. You can hear me well?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Aha. Hello, Brian.
Is it working today?
Yep, that's great.
Yeah, I didn't have my laptop yesterday. Hey, Angeline.
Hey.
Who's the brain behind all this? Oh, we're going to miss the piñata making is today.
Oh, man.
I've been trying to hit all the daily activities. What we've done, Donald, and I'll talk a little bit about it, is after we developed this PowerPoint, our CEO was just Mr. Ideas and said, well, that's great, but instead of telling the staff what to do, you need to do activities. So every day we have a live Zoom activity from a group home across the country, and we encourage all of our other group homes and folks to join.
And today's live activity is
Piñata making. And there was a booty yoga the other day and some cooking stuff and some karaoke. It's very cool. So we get maybe 24, 25 homes joining with the folks. So
wow.
not only did we did this cool thing, we're having live like things for them to do. Right. Okay. And you said this is an hour and a half with Q&As?
Yeah.
What do you usually get for participation? More families or self-advocates or professionals?
What we've had in webinars in like the last month have been, I would say we don't really get like direct demographics through Zoom. We don't ask any questions about that, but just sort of judging from the question and answer session. I would say we're probably about half people with professional interest. So you'll get some questions that are very professionally oriented, and then like half are typically like family members or support people, like who are usually, maybe it won't be, because this is about day services and maybe they won't be, the questions won't be as dire.
Yeah.
But in our last webinar, which was, what was it about? They were I think it was a webinar about the housing crisis and the DSP crisis. And so about half the questions were from people who were kind of in a jam looking, who were desperate for answers.
Well, this is kind of a nice thing because I know you guys do a lot of policy stuff and budgets falling, the sky is falling, and and not enough ventilators and So, well, this will be a fun thing. Heck knows how many people will join or even want to, because
we have I think 152 people signed up. So
you're kidding me.
No, I'm not. Yeah, our last webinar, it was similarly.
Wow. Angeline, what we're doing, because a lot of the folks with TAS are professionals and special educators, is we're actually going to be advertising our Meaningful Day curriculum, which I'll talk about today, on their website. And since we're trying to sell it more, and now we're doing it in Audible, which is kind of cool. And they have a research journal on severe disabilities. When you join that, you get every 3 months. And right now we're working on pricing with them to put a half-page ad or a full-page ad in the journal. And it goes to special education teachers who, as you know, with the new federal focus on transitioning youth, are all looking for things to do. So just trying to use my connection with Tash to get the Meaningful Day curriculum book out. Yeah. Since it kind of is, the journal is more kind of special education.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay.
This gets your cat. She's listening to the Cheerios. No, just in levels.
I see your big orange cat there.
Oh, what's?
Yeah, I love orange cats.
Uh-huh.
I love them all, but particularly orange.
That cat is kind of our jerk. She's extremely food motivated, and so you can't leave anything around her.
Sounds like my cat.
Yeah. The other cat was the other cat's a black cat, and she was a stray off the streets. But she was kind of ornery when we got her, but she's come around. But she's learned to become food oriented from the orange cat. It's really funny to see how things have changed.
Now, so it says that host disabled participant screen sharing. So.
Oh, good thing we. Let's see. I will turn that on for you.
Okay.
Okay. And so the captioner is with us. So captioner, we're just, this is pre-webinar. We're making just some idle chit chat. We'll be on and we'll start at 1 o'clock, and I'll make an announcement when we're starting and do an introduction, so you'll know.
Okay. And just to be sure, all you see now is the webinar, the PowerPoint.
All I see is PowerPoint.
Okay. All right.
Hey, get down. She's licking the outside of the bowl, the outside of the pumpkin container. Anything will do. The condensation off the food can is good enough. What cats do you have?
I've got one that's about 7 months, silver tabby, and he is a real terror right now. And then I have a female silver tabby that's about 2.
Uh-huh.
Hi, everybody.
Hello,
Hi.
Angeline, thank you so much for doing this webinar for us.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited.
I think it's, when I first saw your PowerPoint, yeah, we definitely wanted to have this available for people. Hopefully you'll have a lot of new ideas for folks that have run out of ideas.
Sure, and I think even, if maybe some people have you know, if they have tried a couple of the things on this PowerPoint, we can still kind of get the creativity flowing.
Yeah, that's
You know,
really
trying
cool.
new things.
Yeah, I'm really delighted to have you guys. So, you have I'll tell you have 157 people signed up.
Great.
It's really good turnout. So where are you located?
I am in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania.
So you're in Pennsylvania. Okay.
Yeah.
I know Community Options is like all over the place. So
Yes,
sure.
we are. And always growing.
Yep. I guess that's a good thing. As long as
It
you
is.
keep the quality, make it feel like it's local, even though it's big. Keep that local flavor, I think, is one thing I've admired about
Yes.
Community Options. And the latest edition of the newsletter, Choices, was that?
Yes.
Yeah, Robert just sent out. It was really moving. And the stories were so cool. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
We've had a couple of pre-meetings. Look at you all fancy like a radio talk show host with the microphone.
Yeah. Well, that's because Mark is in the other room on his headphones doing a different webinar for people. So we have two Zooms happening at the same time.
Right. Well, you let us know when you want us to get started.
Well, it's 1 o'clock, so why don't we go?
How many? So, okay, great.
I haven't started broadcasting yet, so I'm going to click. Right now we're private. I'm going to click broadcast, and then suddenly the number of attendees is going to skyrocket. So.
Okay, that's what I was.
And then I'll go. Okay, so here we go. Oh, Angeline, do you want to switch your out of the PowerPoint design view into the what's it, full slide view?
Okay. Give me 1 second just so I can make sure everything's.
Yeah, so let me lock up my dog in another room.
Yeah.
Everybody has their dog on Zoom now.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, dogs, cats, kids. We have iguanas. We have somebody who has a pet rat. One of them. So.
Hey, ready to go.
Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone. It is now 1 o'clock Eastern. Time to begin. I am Donald Taylor. I'm responsible for special projects here at TASH. Welcome to today's presentation, In-Home Meaningful Activities, presented by Angeline Landy and Brian Dion. This is the second of our webinars on responding to the COVID-19 crisis. Recordings of previous webinars are available on our website at tash.org. Just click on the COVID-19 Response and Resources banner. We have 2 additional webinars scheduled for May and more on the way. On May 8th and 22nd is parts 1 and 2 of Safeguards, Unprecedented Times, and Advocacy. Check the TASH in Action newsletter for details and registration, and keep reading TASH in Action for additional webinars in the month of May. For attendees who don't know us, TASH is a values and research-based advocacy association with an over 40-year history of advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. We are located in Washington, D.C. with local chapters in 18 states. Originally founded in 1975 by university researchers, we quickly expanded to include family members, self-advocates, teachers, service providers, and others dedicated to the cause of guaranteeing that people with disabilities are able to participate in all aspects of life. In addition to this webinar series, we offer a scholarly quarterly journal, Research and Practice for Persons with Significant Disabilities, a membership magazine, Connections, a monthly newsletter, TASH in Action, a podcast, our chapters and issue-based committees, our annual Outstanding Leadership in Disability Law Symposium and Award Dinner, honoring Judy Gran in October, and our annual conference to be held this year in Baltimore, Maryland on December 3rd through 5th. You can learn more about TASH, including about becoming a member or attending our annual conference at tash.org. The format of today's series is that our presenters will speak for about 1 hour and 10 minutes, with 20 minutes at the end for questions and answers. Please, so a few technical notes. Please notice that if you move your mouse over the Zoom window, a menu will slide up from the bottom, and there will be a couple of controls of interest. First, the microphone icon is all the way to the left. Click on the arrow next to the microphone, and you'll get a menu that you can use to adjust your individual volume. The second button of interest is the chat button. If you need assistance during the webinar, I will be monitoring the chat box. Also, if you are in need of captioning, it is provided in a separate browser window. You can open the window by clicking the link that's in the chat box. Zoom has both a chat and a QA box. We'll be using the Q&A box for the question and answer period. You can click on the Q&A icon to open the Q&A window, and you type your questions, and during the Q&A, I will read them out loud for all the attendees to hear and for the presenters to respond to. Today, we're excited to have Angeline Landy and Brian Dion to discuss how to provide day supports under conditions of social distancing. Brian Dion is the Chief Executive and Compliance Officer at Community Options. For over 35 years, Brian has advocated for individuals with disabilities in senior leadership positions in government and nonprofits across the country. He is currently the treasurer here at TASH and in an executive position with a national provider of support services. Angeline Landy is the Director of Day Services and Employment at Community Options. She has 14 years of experience working with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as an adult brother with autism. Her personal and professional experience fuels her passion for promoting community inclusion and assisting others with building meaningful relationships and attaining competitive employment. Please join me in welcoming Angeline Landy and Brian Dion.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Angeline will be reviewing the PowerPoint, but I'm going to give an overview of why it was developed and what organizations like ours and folks living at home can maybe utilize this for to assist them in a positive way in keeping folks engaged during this time. Community Options provides supports in 10 states. We support folks with severe disabilities and a range of disabilities. We have always, like most provider organizations, shifted the last several years to community-based supports instead of center-based supports. And in states, many states around the country, like in Pennsylvania, we didn't develop any center-based day supports when we developed the last 9 years and have always been community-based. So during this time, we felt the need to develop a book called The Meaningful Day Curriculum, probably 3 years ago, so that direct support professionals, families, and individuals could have use meaningful day approaches in community activities. If of course, some of these things can be done at home or in a day site, although we prefer community outings, as I know TASH does. And so it really is a guidebook which assists the direct support professionals, community integration counselors, as we call them here, and others, in making sure that every individual has adult age-appropriate activities during the day, hopefully that are employment-focused, and that don't rely on being in a place, but out in the community. Too many times, as you know, even the best provider organizations and folks, a lot of times there's a lot of riding around in the car and eating and maybe volunteerism. But we wanted there to be a way to have, good structured activities that are part of a theme. And so this book, which could be ordered on Amazon, we're now making it into Audible. We're also having it translated to Spanish. We've had for a few years, and it's really been a great way to make sure folks are engaged in a meaningful way in adult activities with the focus of being in the community. But while they're in the community, every activity in the book has a goal-directed reason. So there's chapters on social skills and employment and the like. So we encourage you to look at that to help. When COVID-19 happened, our organization got together and said, well, folks aren't able to go in the community, so what can we do to provide support to the staff and folks living with families during the day? That we need to do something because our focus has always been doing things in the community that are meaningful. So we put together a work group about 4 or 5 weeks ago when the pandemic hit, and came up with what you'll be viewing today is a PowerPoint on meaningful in-home activities. And it's chock full of ideas of age-appropriate things to do during this time where folks are home. And the idea was that it would help our day staff, which most day programs across the country are closed. And when we say program, we mean just the ability to bring them out in the community, bring folks out. And so it was a way for our residential staff and our host home providers and families to utilize this PowerPoint, have active treatment and active engagement and social connections whenever they'd like, morning, noon, or night. So we hope you enjoy it. We, as a large agency, supporting about 3,500 adults and children with intellectual disabilities and autism, felt it was really important. So we will focus on that today. Why did we develop it? We developed it because we just didn't want folks staying at home, watching TV, being concerned with what they're seeing on the news, and to really try to keep a positive feel in our homes and for folks living at home or with host homes. So we really hope you enjoy it. I will tell you that we did take it a step farther, and after we developed the PowerPoint and rolled it out to our staff across the country to use, they loved it. But what I would recommend if other agencies are on the line or independent living centers or others is, you know, the book was a great idea for meaningful guidance in the community. This PowerPoint is great for great things to do in the home environment, wherever home is. However, we took it the next step and actually are doing live Zoom activities each and every day. We started them 2 weeks ago, many from the ideas in the PowerPoint and from the book. And every day we hold an hour-long activity, everything from karaoke to yoga to cooking classes to resume writing, practice interviewing skills. And we have folks from all across the country in our network calling in to look at them. Because we think, although this PowerPoint is great as a companion to the out-of-home activities book that's on the screen, it's still not enough to just tell direct support professionals or managers or host home providers, here's some things to do. That is good. But I encourage any organization out there to also facilitate live interactive activities so we're actually providing those things instead of just giving them the ideas for those things. So without further ado, we'll have Angeline, who runs one of our most successful community-based day supports and employment programs in Pennsylvania, out in the western part of Pennsylvania in a county, Westmoreland, who helped develop the in-home activities PowerPoint and whose staff takes up about 50% of the daily live activities we're doing the last few weeks to take it from here. We hope it's
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to everybody that's joining in. So one of my favorite units from the Meaningful Day curriculum is called Stepping Outside of Your Comfort Zone. And so when I'm going through these activity ideas, I really want to encourage people to do just that, because that is how we all are learning and growing, is stepping outside of that comfort zone. So as things kind of progressed in the world and changed due to COVID-19, one of the first activity accommodations that I noticed was people organizing virtual walks. And a lot of times you can access those and find out what's happening around you or even across the country via Facebook or other social media. And it's nice because other people have already organized those events, and you can just follow along to stay active in the community. Some of the virtual walks are in support of causes and organizations, and some are just for fun. So I really encourage checking those out. So another thing that I think is important while we're all in the homes, so that we're not being stagnant, is to think about your mind and your body and being active, coping with everything that is going on. And so another suggestion that I have are looking up on YouTube different yoga routines. I suggest this yoga with Adrian because there are just many videos for any level, a beginner level or if you're advanced, but they're really fun, and it makes for a fun time to just follow along with these free videos in your home and stay active. So when it comes to arts and crafts, I think this is really a big go-to for everybody, but it's important when we're facilitating these sorts of activities, I think, to think outside of the box. There are endless art and craft activities, but I think it's important to know where you can access the different crafts. You know, there are a few websites here listed that are really great for getting the supplies that you may need. And so some other websites that you could use are abcya.com, they're math games, and places that you could get worksheets and directions on the crafts. There's kidconnect.com, which has free lessons and activities, and that's for all age groups. And again, like Brian said, we try to keep everything age appropriate, offer, the age appropriate activities. Most of the activities have various purposes. Some of them I think are overlooked. Sometimes working on the fine motor skills, promoting independence. Sure, you're doing something fun, but how do you take that a step further? And so navigating back to arts and crafts, I think it's important to understand that everybody has ideas that I don't have about what crafts could look like, and maybe encourage making something that's useful in the home or outside. And so one suggestion that I have for an art and craft activity to share the love and keep connections going during this time when we're in the house a lot is to make your own greeting card to send maybe to family or neighbors or even if you have a pen pal, and encourage everyone to put their own special touches on those. Another activity I really love is making your own Zen garden. Getting back to arts and crafts, but also thinking about coping and staying calm. When you make a Zen garden, often you will use sand, rocks, and you can use different tools to move the sand and rocks around, and it really creates a sense of peace. But at the same time, it's fun. So you could also even add little succulent plants, or just get creative with that and add what you want to it. So we all enjoy eating, but here's an idea. Let's make edible crafts and teach people how to, make the food themselves. We've got pictured here a Ziploc bag fudge, which is really cool. It's a green color, super interesting. You can make it fun. The mundane things that are typically your standard daily tasks, they don't have to be mundane. Get creative. You could make fruit and vegetable creatures, animals. It's just a fun spin on cooking and having fun in the kitchen. So it's always important to be learning and receiving education. We should all be learning daily. So why not start your own book club? Pick a book, an audio book. Maybe if there's a movie, you could have everyone watch that movie and create some discussion on that. What are the feelings about what happened in this book or this movie? Is there a lesson in that? Is it something that you could apply to your life? Just facilitate that discussion and encourage the group activities. So we always want to stay creative, like I mentioned. I think one of the most important things to remember is, again, that we can be making things that are useful, things that can be used in the homes or outside of the homes. So encourage brainstorming and getting new creative activities together. Here we have a bird feeder, a heart-shaped bird feeder. We have pencil holders, decorations. These are things when you're getting creative and using that part of the brain, they lead to memorable experiences as well. So while you're getting creative, why not make some hand sanitizing wipes or your own hand sanitizer? There are a lot of suggestions online for how to make these things out of household items that you probably have laying around, not typically things that you would even need to go out and purchase specially. And right now, these are really useful. So here we have a link to make your own no-sew face mask. For those of us that are not feeling like sewing or not particularly skilled in that area, I'm one of those. Or you could try some of the ones where there is sewing involved. There are lots of how-to videos online and ways to make these. And any skill level, you could probably make one of these, and you could embellish them even and see what fun ideas or spins that you could put on that. So I want to really encourage thinking about sensory needs at this point as well. While you're using the imagination, facilitating the creativity, don't forget that there are a lot of ideas online for do-it-yourself sensory projects. You could make scented rice, which is really soothing. I've seen lavender, lemon. I've seen hair gel sensory bags, which are really cool, and they end up being colored. And I've also seen them taped on the windows, a very cool sensory effect. Bubble wrap stomp painting is something that we have tried, and that was a lot of fun. You could do themed sensory bottles, always a good idea. So we're all spending a lot of time indoors, maybe looking out our windows. Why not change what's on the windows? I would suggest being sure that what you're putting on the windows when you're painting them is something that's going to come off. There are window paint sticks that you can buy, and there's really no mess at all involved with those. You could also do some stained glass effect. You could use even tissue paper, colored tissue paper for that. And just create a change of scenery when you're looking at your windows. So now's the time to be starting seeds indoors. And it's a proven fact that gardening reduces stress. It's a way to improve your general health, maybe even sleep better, I believe I read. So now's a good time to start those seeds indoors. You can do this with, again, common items that you have in your home, the empty egg cartons, yogurt containers, reusable, disposable cups, really anything that you have that fits the bill. You can make multiple projects out of starting these seeds. Plan out your garden. Maybe you want to plan for a sensory garden, or you could look online or use other resources to see if maybe there's a public garden that you may be able to join in the future, and think about what you could contribute to that. So thinking about nature and gardening, we also think about the creatures around us. And, you know, a lot of people that I know really enjoy watching birds, identifying those. So why not make a bird feeder, even to attract any birds or to maybe attract certain types of birds? Again, an activity that is encouraging thinking about your surroundings. It could be made out of peanut butter, seed. You can use toilet paper rolls, sticks, again, things that aren't, you know, really a big deal to try to get access to. So once you've made your bird feeder, why not take up bird watching? See which birds your feeder attracted. Make an activity, maybe out of identifying birds or other animals in the area, you know, just looking out your window or maybe from the yard. Seek further education about the wildlife and how it functions. So another great activity, piggybacking off of nature and watching nature, is making a nature journal. When you're watching wildlife, why not start that journal? talk about write down your thoughts about what's in your area, in your environment, and learn. And there are also other types of journaling that you can do. You could do food journaling. You could do some interactive notebooks. You can just use journaling for a way to cope and get the thoughts and emotions out. I know somebody who loves to journal on the notepad in their phone every day. You know, if he is experiencing some anxiety or even something positive, he gets the phone out and writes it down. And then, you know, he refers back to that and reflects occasionally. So another thing, in lieu of going to museums and accessing zoos, things like that, we could use technology and the internet to take a virtual field trip. YouTube has many of them. There are field trips to zoos, aquariums, museums, and just about anything that you could think of. And there are lots of options for that, not just YouTube. But when we're supporting somebody and we're doing these virtual field trips, we need to remember to be interactive and involve yourself, engage as part of the experience, show enthusiasm, ask questions, be creating a learning experience, not just, you know, telling somebody to sit in front of the internet for hours and not getting anything out of it. Another way that I like to create meaningful connections and to facilitate learning experiences are TED Talks. Those are also available on YouTube, TED.com. As listed on the slide. So this is a free way to access lots of information. The presenters are almost always very engaging, captivating, and they talk about a wide variety of topics like self-esteem, motivation, personal growth, money management, and just about anything that you could think of. So that's a free resource. You know, you will hear me talk a lot about online resources, and why not? Everything is at our fingertips at this point. Use what is available to build the meaningful activities. So Pinterest is something I think most of us use in our daily lives. A lot of us have boards to organize home decorating, clothing, crafts that we want to try out, maybe recipes. So I was thinking, as we're utilizing the Meaningful Day curriculum, why not create a Pinterest account where all the boards are the Meaningful Day curriculum units? And so I've done that. The link is listed here, and I really encourage everybody to follow that, not only to get ideas from the boards, but also to understand and learn how to create your own Pinterest. Encourage making Pinterest boards that meet the individual's needs and wants. And this is a way to organize lots of different activities and centralize them. So a goal setting storyboard or a vision board. Now's a good time to think about the future and plan for that. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So let's think about our goals for the future, split them up into mini goals, and think about how those are going to become a reality and map that out on a vision board. There's all different kinds of ways that you could do this. You could clip pictures from magazines, you know, make the storyboard or the vision board whatever you want, but map out how to accomplish your goals for the future. Brian mentioned that we are doing live fuse activities, and we've got someone that's going to be doing a employment goal storyboard. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. We always want to encourage making a plan and laying out the steps to completing that. So speaking of employment, there are ways that we can help to prepare for competitive employment while we're all stuck in the house. You know, talk about how to dress appropriately for your dream job. Conduct mock interviews. There are lots of prompts and tools for doing that as well online, or you can make your own. Mock interviews really help to practice to nail that interview for the job that you want. Budgeting. If you're going to be employed making money, which ultimately creates independence, why not think about budgeting? Doing some price comparison, and learning about how to handle money. And just keeping employment as part of the conversation. Competitive employment is a way to really be a part of the community, to build natural supports and relationships. Always be encouraging or planting a seed about, you know, following your dreams and being employed. Create a resume. It's a good time to do that. Think about the skills that could be listed on a resume in addition to any jobs that have been worked in the past. And check out some online job applications. It's also a great time to think about self-advocacy. Now is always the time to take advantage of your rights as a person and the choices that you get to make. So it's a good time to maybe do online voter registration or find out about candidates for office. Really dive into the information, and since you have the choice to elect officials, why not educate yourself on what the options are? So I mentioned earlier the importance of planning, and undoubtedly we have to cook and have meals. So I think it's a good time to get creative with meal planning, whether there are special diets or considerations, or you're just trying to be healthier, where there really isn't a goal other than just planning. Planning for food and meals saves money. And it's good to create a visual of what is going to happen and really encourage individuals to participate in planning all aspects of life, including meal planning. Cooking and baking. So it's also good to involve individuals in the preparation of the food. We can make it fun, like the food art that we mentioned earlier. You could turn on some music, work together to learn measurements, to have successful cooking and baking, and your other food prep skills that are needed. Incorporate elements of interest where possible, like the food art, fun colors, special diets, anything that's going to make the experience enjoyable. So taking cooking and baking a step further, I love this activity, filming a cooking show. So I think most of us have watched a cooking show on TV. Why not make your own? It's very entertaining. There will be lots of laughs. Pick out a recipe that you're wanting to try. Pretend that you're hosting the cooking show, and maybe record it or teach everybody else how to make that recipe. That can be just really a creative and fun experience. Board games. So I think sometimes we take for granted how board games or puzzles can teach skills. The next couple of slides, will address that. The board games and puzzles help with mental stimulation and memory function. And they even strengthen relationships if you think about it, and help to reduce stress with the laughter that ultimately comes from them. They're also a great way to even learn about money or other skills depending on the games. So I don't know if you've seen some of the puzzles that are out there, but I do know that they could definitely teach a person patience. Some game or puzzle options could be Boggle, Jenga, Boulder Dash. There's Apples to Apples, Sorry, Uno, Guess Who. We have even a budgeting game that we like here. So it's also a good idea to maybe redecorate your room or your living space, make it what you want it to be, something that's pleasing, reduce your clutter, adjust your space to give it a fresh new vibe, spruce things up, mix them up a bit, and don't forget to incorporate some of the art and projects that you've made as well into this space. It's also a great time to learn about street signs and how to navigate the community. We're, restricted on community involvement right now as far as going out to places, but why not educate yourself on how to navigate the community for when things start opening back up. Living room karaoke, another thing that we created into a live fuse activity for people to join in. It's always fun to use music wherever possible to get active, dance, show off your singing skills. You can plan out your own karaoke, maybe give it a theme if you want, have props. So I mentioned budgeting earlier. Budgeting and being able to manage your own money is a great way to increase and maintain independence. It's something that I really like to encourage people getting involved with. And so here we have a link for a budgeting plan called Sense and Sensibility, and this is free. You can print this out, and it really addresses the difference between wants and needs, and you get to make lists. What are your wants versus needs, and look at how to prioritize those things. And then you start looking at how much money you have to work with. And everything kind of falls into place using this guide. And so I really encourage people to print one of these out. I know it's helped me. So why not create that atmosphere that you want? You may not necessarily be able to go out and have a picnic right now, but you could create that setting or atmosphere in your own home. You could set out the blanket, the food, the basket if you have it, and do everything as if you're having an actual picnic. Create the atmosphere that you're wanting to have. And simple activities like this are often a catalyst for a fun-filled time. So I really recommend trying that. International Lunch Day. It's a great way to learn about different cultures and be aware of the various food options that are available, what culture they come from. Pick out a country or an area that you want to learn more about, or you have an interest in, or maybe it's part of your heritage that you want to learn more about, and find some sort of a food dish that's unique to that country, and then go ahead and prepare that. And then you can add to that atmosphere by finding clothing or different props to wear it to that meal, and make sure that the meal is also a learning experience. Learn more about that culture. For example, you could choose Mexico, and there are lots of wonderful foods that you could serve. My favorite being tacos. Everybody could wear a sombrero and just plan for an afternoon of learning about that culture. We all know that there's lots of news to watch right now. So, and we've got all this technology right at our fingertips. So I think it's a good way to get out your phone and make your own newscast. Pick events that you're interested in and educate yourself and conduct your own newscast and film that. You could just do that as a group. I'm sure there will be lots of laughs. And at the same time, while it's fun, you're working on public speaking skills and using your technology to kind of dive into what's really going on in the world. Or you could even make up your own news if you want to get really creative. So we're big fans of scavenger hunts, but of course right now we're inside. So you can make your own list of things to hunt for in a scavenger hunt, or there are a lot of online resources, different themed lists for everybody to be searching for things indoors. You can get creative with it. You could make clues. And it's good if you're making clues and putting set times on the hunt to have small goal setting and practice meeting the goals. And of course, it's always fun to have a prize at the end. So I think we've all probably watched everything Netflix has to offer right now. But a way to take the TV a step further and piggyback off of something a lot of us love is to pick a particular movie genre of interest, something that everyone's gonna enjoy, and plan for a whole day or maybe even night of watching these themed movies. and maybe pick snacks that somehow match things in the movie, or find props. Just make an activity out of it. Maybe ask questions about the movies and the genres. So let's go beyond our everyday selfies and pictures that a lot of us are taking, and have a photo shoot. Maybe pick a theme, get together some different outfits and props. They could be everyday things, or they could be outrageous. They could be anything you want them to be. And practice being a professional photographer. You could do some funny pictures, serious pictures, different emotions. And what's nice, we all know, is you can take as many photos as you want, and if some of them don't work, you can just delete those. And I'm sure you'll end up with something that you want to print and frame in the end. So we're all on Zoom right now. It's a great way to connect. There are other platforms you can use. Fuse, you could use Skype, FaceTime. Right now is a good time to examine how we're building on with the relationships that we already have, or making new ones. And luckily, technology can keep us connected, and facilitating that relationship building, which is so important in everyone's daily life. And sometimes that gets neglected, but make sure that you're using, Zoom and these other platforms to really get that connection. Stay in touch, maybe with family, friends, make new friends. There are plenty of social groups. Of course, encourage safe internet navigation. So one of the things that I've mentioned several times is the need for us to all continue learning every day and to not become stagnant. And this final activity in the webinar is based off of something called archive.org. And this is really the ultimate catalog of information. This is a nonprofit digital library, and their goal is to provide accessible knowledge to everybody. So check that website out. There are lots of books, audio recordings, videos, broadcasts, things that you can rent for free. There's even software programs. It is just a wealth of knowledge and facilitating that growth that we're seeking. And that about wraps up our activities for the webinar. So, would we like to go to some questions, if anybody has any questions?
So if people have any questions, we can use the question and answer box. It's, again, if you roll your mouse over the Zoom window, a little menu will slide up from the bottom. The Q&A box is sort of in the middle. You can pose your question there, and I will read it out loud for everybody to hear and for our two panelists to respond. If you put your question in the chat box, I will probably get it there as well, but please try and use the Q&A box. The first question is, how would you get supplies for activities to individuals? Would you send them?
So what we have been doing in the current conditions, is ordering many of them online. And then we distribute them using the precautions that we need to use.
Okay, that was the only question we had up. Does anyone else have any other questions? We have budgeted another half an hour in this webinar if anyone wants to ask anything. So this is, I'll ask a question right now. This is maybe a little bit off topic, but in some of our previous couple of webinars that we've had about community living under conditions of the COVID-19 crisis, one of our presenters said that an issue that came up for them was that some of the people they support were previously institutionalized, and suddenly being told that they can't do all the things that they're accustomed to, and that it's best for them to stay in, it's confusing and worrying, and some people have thought that maybe they're being reinstitutionalized. I guess, how do you talk to the people you support about the need for social distancing, and how do you help explain what help them adapt to what their new schedule will be?
I think it's best to just be direct and informative about what is going on, with no embellishment, like our own feelings that may create, and then really shift the focus on them creating goals and the things that they can be doing now that are of interest, to learn and to have a meaningful experience. In general, I think keeping busy and encouraging that growth kind of redirects from the worry and the feelings that might arise, especially for a person that's been in one of those institutional settings in the past. That's obviously can create some worry. So just planning for the future through what you're doing right now.
So we've got a few questions now. One participant asks, how can you create recreational and sports activities in home without the use of parks and pools being available?
So once again, I would definitely encourage using internet resources for that, especially YouTube. There are so many types of recreational and exercise activities available to follow along in your home. And if there are needs, such as say exercise balls or different supplies that you need, again, I would encourage ordering those online. Pretty much anything we could want is accessible through resources online, and just taking into account what sort of recreational activities people like and planning to do those, and knowing what the needs are to accomplish those is a good idea.
So we have a couple of people who've posed similar questions about web access. One person asks, how have you combated the issues with when people do not have access to a digital platform, no cell phone or PC, they only have a landline? And another person asks, how do you address the challenges with limited internet access?
That is a very good question, and not something that I've personally encountered so far. But I know that if we had limited access, you know, working with community options, that I would be contacting a person within the organization that could assist with that, and maybe has more access, you know, maybe make them a list of what the needs are and passing that along to make sure we get what we need.
Ruthie asks, can you talk about age appropriateness?
Yes. So when it comes to age appropriate activities, and this is actually a conversation I was having earlier today, because I had somebody ask me, you know, if somebody is an adult but enjoys, you know, child's activities, you know, and that's their preference, then what do we do? Everything is about choice and taking control of your own life. And we all enjoy what we enjoy, but as far as from like a provider standpoint and my standpoint, we want to be encouraging age appropriate activities and for people to understand what the choices are and be educated on, you know, the options for activities before they're choosing maybe something that isn't age appropriate. And so that's really how I approach that topic. I hope that answered that question.
Okay, that's all our questions. Do we have any more? And we'll maybe give it, oh, here we go. For the people I work with, TV is how they're most used to spending their time. How can I encourage them to give new hobbies a chance and understand that TV all day long can be unhealthy for mental health?
I think that's a common issue. And what I like to do is look at what they're watching on TV, what they're really enjoying about that, and decide, are there elements from what they're watching on TV that you can pull out slowly to kind of transition from sort of watching TV all day to being a little bit more active. So, you know, if somebody is watching, say, some sort of cartoon all day, what is it about that they're really enjoying? And they're so passionate about this thing that they have to watch. What can you pull from that to apply to a little activity here and there starting off, and then increase that gradually in a way that makes sense for that individual?
Well, I think we'll. Missouri Assistive, or MO Assistive Technology can help Missouri residents with technology access. In the St. Louis area, the Recreation Council, oh, this is maybe not a question. Yeah, somebody just posted some information in the, I'm sorry, in the chat box.
Okay.
Well, I will wait another minute or so to see if we have another question. Somebody asks, how do you continue 6 feet of social distancing when cooking?
As far as, I guess what I would need to know, I'm trying to see if I understand the question. If you were cooking with another person, showing them how to cook something, you know, that could be challenging, but, you know, just making sure that they can see what's going on, and then also tell them what's happening. You know, maybe you're needing to do a lot of the physical, assisting the physical work of cooking, for example. And so you've got an individual that's 6 feet away from you, then you can talk about what you're doing and really explain that as you're doing that. I think that would be a good way to still have the learning experience of it there, and still be mindful of staying 6 feet away from each other.
No, we'll give people just another.
Angeline, could you put up the Meaningful Day curriculum, as a couple people have asked for the link again?
Sure.
Any other questions, anyone, about how you're faring, or sharing how you're faring at home or in a community living arrangement, or how you're doing? Hopefully these tips have been helpful to keep you busy and occupied, and people that you love and support. They're great activities for everyone.
And I just want to let participants know that we're going to post the recording of this webinar, and when we do, we'll post all the links to everything that was discussed here along with the recording, so you can, they'll be clickable, so you don't have to type them down from this webinar. Well, I think if there are no further questions, we will conclude here. This is the second of our, oh, did you want to say an afterword, Brian, or shall I wrap up?
No, thank you very much for all of you attending. And we wish that this has been helpful for you.
Okay, and this is the second of our webinars responding to the COVID-19 crisis. Again, we'll make a recording of this webinar available at tash.org. Just click on the COVID-19 response and resources banner for this webinar and our other COVID-19 related resources. Also, check out our upcoming two-part webinar, Safeguards, Unprecedented Times, and Advocacy, on May 8th and 22nd. We have a few more webinars in the works, but we're not quite ready to announce them yet, but they will be up soon. So check Tash in Action or Tash on social media for details when they become available. Thank you to Angeline Landy and Brian Dion for spending this hour showing us how to keep a meaningful day for people with disabilities when the boundaries of community inclusion have become suddenly so much more constricted. Thank you.